Hello folks, if we were in any doubt that the World of Warcraft team had plans to follow up on what's starting to look like one of the most successful new expansion launches, these doubts were completely dispelled this week. Without even waiting for the start of the first season of The War Within, the team announced their plans to celebrate World of Warcraft's 20th anniversary and the 30th anniversary of the whole World of Warcraft franchise. There has been a history of the anniversary events for major milestones being a bit bigger than the standard in-game holiday event, but this one is taking things to a whole new level, so much so that it's going to require its own new patch. What this means is that patch 11.05 is going to be dominated by the anniversary. The event isn't yet currently in the calendar, but the team in their announcement did allude to weekly rewards, so I suspect that the event is going to last quite a bit longer than normal. So let's dive into everything that's going to be into the event. The headline event is the return of the Blackrock Depths raid from vanilla in 10 and 15 player options. Blackrock Depths was the main raid of World of Warcraft's second raid tier, and that tier brought one of the most iconic gear sets in the game's history, the Paladin Judgment set, and this set is set to make a return in a fully modernised rework, along with remastered versions of the other class sets from tier 2. For the classes that went around in vanilla, the team have also produced suitable brand new sets for those as well. These sets, along with many other cosmetic rewards, including the return of the 10th anniversary Corehound mount, can be purchased using a new event currency, bronze celebration tokens, which will be earnable just by participating in the many available events. Now, if you're not a raider, don't worry, as there's going to be plenty more content to enjoy as well. Dungeon fans will be able to enjoy the introduction of vanilla Timewalking dungeons. These will include Deadmines, Zul'Farrak, both sides of Dire Maul and both sides of Strathhorn. Once the anniversary event is over, these will be getting added to the normal Timewalking rotation. While it's not strictly related to the anniversary itself, there's also going to be an update to the Timewalking reward vendors, with new mounts being added to the classic Burning Crusade and Wrath vendors. From vanilla, we're getting the Frey Feather Hippogriff. From Burning Crusade, it's the Amani Hunting Bear. And from Wrath, the Enchanted Spellweave Carpet. For open world fans, the old Timewalking world bosses will all be making their usual return, but this time it's supplemented with the addition of the Shat of Anger and Archivon, both of which will be making appearances in Tanaris. And everyone's favourite Saccharine Dragon, Chromie, will also be celebrating the event, setting up a new callback to the opening of the gates of Ahn'Qiraj over in Silithus, with a brand new 10 to 20 player queuable scenario. We're also getting a revamped anniversary event area just outside the Caverns of Time. This will have a bunch of new activities, including what sounds like a mount-off event against NPCs. And most interesting of all for me is the return of the popular Secrets of Azeroth event. Reward-wise, there is also, of course, a brand new event mount reward. This is a gorgeous Silver Phoenix mount, the Cold Flame Tempest, which is outfitted with armour based in Blizzard's internal employee long service awards, which are also making an appearance as purchasable in-game cosmetic. Overall, this event is on a much larger scale than I had expected. During Dragonflight, we saw a few holiday revamps, which peaked with the outstanding Love is in the Air rework, and this makes me pretty excited to see what the team has been cooking. Holiday events in World of Warcraft do provide an opportunity to have something a little different from the same old, albeit many of the existing events have been around for so long that they have become a bit stale. So any new event like this is for me something to be looked forward to. The inclusion of a full-size raid is, I suspect, part of the reason why Nerebar Palace, the War Within's raid, only has 8 bosses, making it the smallest raid since BFA's Aldir. I had some doubts that the raid would be big enough to last a full season, but it now appears that there's at least some method to Blizzard's madness. Personally, I've never been super interested in the Timewalking raids. Redoing old raids that many folks burned out on when the raid was current just doesn't excite, but given that I suspect many current players never ever did Blackrock when it was current, this may well be a lot more interesting. Unlike previous Timewalking raids which were single difficulty, this has LFR, normal and heroic options, which should make it more appealing to organised raid teams. But what about all of you? What are you most excited about from the anniversary? Are you keen to experience Blackrock Depths? Or have you seen and done that already? Let me know in the comments down below. One very obvious question is, will there be any other non-anniversary event content in 11.05? Well, the answer to that is yes, there are indeed a few non-holiday changes coming. The headline change is the addition of a bunch of new class choices to the Drakthyr race, specifically Hunter, Rogue, Priest, Mage, Warrior and Warlock. If you're not a fan of the Drakthyr Dragon form, these classes all come with the ability to cast while still in humanoid form. Sadly, this does come with some hefty nerfs to the Drakthyr ratios, albeit Evoker is getting some talent choices that will avoid those nerfs. Throughout Dragonflight, we saw a series of class and spec revamps, and it appears that trend is continuing in the War Within, with Paladin, Hunter, Mistweaver Monk, Shaman, Balanced Druid and Arcane Mage all getting fairly sizable revamps, along with some smaller scale adjustments for a bunch of others. Shamen are also getting a visual revamp of their Ascendant forms. This visual revamp is proven to be a bit controversial and is having some pushback from the community. The revamps is certainly interesting. I guess the Shamen of Azeroth have been playing with electricity a bit too much of late. And finally, for those of you who have been using the new currency transfer feature, there's a nice quality of life improvement coming with the addition of a max amount button. We don't yet have a release date for patch 11.05, but if the team follows the 8-week release cycle of Dragonflight, something that they have implied they do want to do, we can probably expect it to land in mid to late October. And my best guess is that the holiday event will probably last for the duration of that patch. Moving back to the present, and it's fair to say that it's all been a little bit quiet as we've been working our way through the new content or waiting for Season 1 to finally launch, meaning that new developments are currently a little bit light on the ground. Probably the biggest thing that has been getting community attention was the auction house performance. While the launch of the expansion was one of the smoothest we've seen since Legion, many gold makers would perhaps disagree with that sentiment, as ever since the release of early access, the auction house has been struggling quite a bit. As well as being extremely slow to do anything, the auction house also started to accumulate what I would describe as zombie listings, essentially unbuyable auctions. While annoying at the best of times, at the start of an expansion when a lot of us are trying to level our professions, this was seriously painful. I think it took me close to 30 minutes just to buy the materials I needed to level my cooking skill. As is sadly often the case with major issues, the Blizzard dev team lapsed into their characteristic silence, with only a vague acknowledgement of the poor performance. Thankfully, one of the server producers, Tom Ellis, finally did tweet some information in the issue, promising that some improvements would come in the near future. This near future turned out to be a little sooner than I expected at the time, with the team working over the holiday weekend to deliver a major boost to auction house performance. Asking developers to work over the weekend for what is just a video game is a big ask, and I for one do thank the team for the time and effort they put it in to get it back in an even keel. This wasn't the only issue we experienced this week, as sadly for US folks who got an early start with the final chapter of the War Within story campaign, they found that the climactic cinematic was pretty broken. Blizzard did act very quickly to pull the campaign and then restore it after some fixes, but the problem with an issue like this is that for the people who encounter it broken, there's really no way to undo that experience. I myself have had cinematics bug out in day one in the past, and it seriously sucks. But in this case, it was probably the worst case scenario for those players who were affected by that issue. Those of us who did the campaign post-fix got to be treated to what was probably the best climax to an in-game story we've ever seen in World of Warcraft, delivering not one but two major emotional moments. The final chapter was a fitting culmination to what, for me, has been the best expansion story opening ever. In last week's news, I described how, for me, the leveling experience had managed to match Legion's 7.0 Suramar storyline, but on a much larger scale. This week's ending managed to surpass even that. As a complete experience, this is now hands down the best storytelling we've ever seen in World of Warcraft, and we've still got to see the conclusion of Queen's Ahn'Qiraj choices in the raid. In other words, there's a possibility there's even more to come. It is truly astounding to me how far the in-game storytelling has come in just 2 expansions. Instead of spreading the max level story over the usual 6 weeks or so, their decision to spread it over just 3 weeks has provided for far better pacing. I could go on in this subject, but I do plan to do a more full review of the launch in a couple of weeks. So if you haven't already subscribed, do make sure to do it now and hit the bell icon so that you know when that video goes live. One last thing I will say at this point though is that the team have set a very high bar for themselves. Maintaining this level of quality is going to be a massive challenge for them. If they do, then the very justified criticisms of World of Warcraft storytelling could be well and truly put to rest. Well, that's all the major events for this week. With patch 11.05 now live in the PTR, I have a suspicion that there will be lots more discoveries just around the corner, and I'm going to be here to cover it all. If you've enjoyed this video, then do make sure to hit that like icon to let both me and YouTube know. All your comments, likes and subs help to make my videos more visible to a wider audience, as does watching it right through to the end, and all of this means the world to me. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.